If you're watching this channel, it's because you don't enjoy watching the world squander what Christendom built, but you want to do your part. And chances are you've heard me mention a great means by doing just that. Email made by and for Catholics. Check out fidei.email. That's FIDEI.email. Built for Catholic individuals, families, organizations, and groups. They're private, secure, and of course, they're Catholic. And they're offering 2 months off on your first year for an annual subscription if you enter the coupon code Return to Tradition without spaces. That's the name of this channel, without spaces, at checkout. You may have noticed that it's a political year in America, and every one of these kinds of years that come and go seem to be a little more tense than the last round we had. 2020 was pretty tense. 2016 was pretty tense too, but there seems to be more tension in the air, and it's causing people to do a lot of silly things, sometimes evil things. The mask is slipped, as they say, and we have a case of this for a Catholic school. Here in the United States, a kid was going to give a speech at some school assembly where he was essentially running for the office of being some patriotism coordinator. He wasn't allowed to do that. He had to remove all references to patriotism out of his speech at the order of the school administrators, even though the position he was running for on his silly student government thing was patriotism coordinator. That doesn't make any sense to you. Don't worry, it's all very kind of confusing. And there are some Catholics who will say, well, patriotism is bad. You should have no love for any of this. Thomas Aquinas described it as a filial piety that you would have towards your land. This is not to be confused with love of your state, love of those who rule over you. Not necessarily, especially the less Christian they are, the less you're supposed to be just automatically deferring to every single thing they say. After all, when virtually everything they do is evil, you're not supposed to defer to it. But having filial love for your land, filial love for your country is different than having blind love for the state. That's something that should be noted here. Patriotism is perfectly compatible with Catholicism. It always has been. That doesn't mean we're necessarily to excuse everything those who rule over us do in the name of patriotism. Remember, my country, right or wrong, is in error. It's an evil idea, regardless of the filial piety you're supposed to have for your country. Because remember, true love involves telling the truth. Love is truth. Standing up for the truth is an act of love. It's one of the greatest acts of charity you can ever do. And if we were to have filial piety towards the countries we live in, that means also telling the truth when our country does something wrong. There's no difference between that and, say, correcting a bishop when he does something obviously wrong, or standing up and saying to your own parents if they do something foolish or immoral, out of absolute love and devotion to them, and that you should have towards your parents, they are doing something wrong. Love is truth. It's a great act of charity, one of the greatest we can ever do. Let's go to the story, though, because this is a Catholic school named St. Bonaventure Catholic School. It's attached to a parish, and it appears to be located in Florida. And I'm going to let you hear the kid's speech. I can't put it on screen because of the age of the people in the video, but I can let you hear the audio of his speech, and there's nothing controversial here at all. This all sounds pretty elementary, so to speak. So here is his speech, and then I will read to you the statement given by his parents afterwards.
My name is Jimmy Hayward, of the class of 2025, graduating next year. I want to be your next Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit. I am hopeful that I can make a positive impact on our school if I am elected. I would say that I have many attributes of a leader and am an effective communicator. I have attended leadership programs such as TACSC. I also play multiple team sports that enhance my leadership skills. One of these sports is baseball. I have to communicate effectively with my teammates during stretches, on the field, or in the dugout. Also, a leader always has to be a leader. So when my team is losing, I have to sustain my leadership skills for the sake of myself and my teammates. I have many ideas for when I make the student council. As Commissioner of School Spirit, I'm eager to make pep rallies more fun, energetic, and participative. I would do this by making chants, having better games, involving more people, and adding prizes. SBS flags, pep rally themes, teacher competitions, and music are all ideas I would hope to add. Another idea I acquired is turning pep rallies into a version of color teams. I'm referring to how each grade would earn points for how well they do each pep rally. Student council and I would then conclude the school year with a championship between the best two grades. I also have a service project in mind. This proposal would be restoring the courtyard. The courtyard is beautiful, yet I feel that I could bring greatness to it. I aspire to add more flowers and bedding to the garden. As Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit, I am responsible for history-related topics. With this in mind, I would like to coordinate with Ms. Flock events such as meeting Holocaust survivors, 9/11 survivors, Japanese Americans from internment camps, and more. I feel this would strengthen the knowledge of history within myself and others. Modest additions regarding history and patriotism I desire are historical facts in the morning and coordinating with the Commissioner of Publicity to add history to the billboards. My love for America is my motivation for running for Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit. It is an honor to live in this country. Sadly, some people take their citizenship for granted, whether it is disrespecting the people who protect us or eating nachos during the national anthem at a sporting event. Many people recite the Pledge of Allegiance without understanding its meaning. If someone doesn't truly know what they are pledging to the United States of America, they might as well be reciting the lyrics to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. I want to fix this so everyone understands the meaning of the Pledge of Allegiance. As the Commissioner of Patriotism, I would have the crucial task of creating ways to bring more patriotism to SBS. I love my country, and I love St. Bonaventure, but I want to strengthen our patriotism and school spirit. So accordingly, I, Jimmy Hayward, am running for Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit. I want to clarify that my ideas are not promises, but I can promise to make pep rallies great again. I will make the school spirit great again. I will make patriotism within SBS great again. And mostly, I will make SBS great again. Thank you, and God bless St. Bonaventure Catholic School.
No big deal, right? Nothing controversial in that address. Pretty boring, actually. I mean, I'm sure it was a good job on the child's part. That's actually a remarkable thing for a child that age to be able to write something like that and give it to him. He's got a bright future. Not making any waves in the real world with that kind of address. And yet this is something that really bothered the teachers there. They would not let him give that address. Here's a statement given by his parents. And it was picked up by one of the most notorious accounts on Twitter. And I'll put links to their posts on this in the show notes at returntotradition.org so you can see what we're talking about here. So from their post on this, from the statement they gave, quote, Jimmy decided to run for Commissioner of School Spirit and Patriotism at his school this year. Jimmy designed and printed a banner that was hung up at school, along with hats embroidered with his slogan, all using his own money. He submitted his speech on time to the school to be reviewed before the big day, today. The principal, Mary Flock, told Jimmy yesterday he needed to make changes to his speech. She wanted everything in his speech regarding patriotism to be removed, even though patriotism was part of the position's title that he was running for. We went over his speech last night and he revised some things. When he shared his final draft with us, we were very proud of what he had curated. However, this morning at school, while he and the other candidates were lining up to say their speeches, Miss Flock said that if he did not remove all parts about patriotism, he would not be able to read his speech to the rest of the candidates. Jimmy stood up to her and said he wasn't going to take the parts about patriotism out of his speech. She then told him he would not be speaking. Jimmy sat on stage with all the other candidates while they said their speeches. Mary Flock directed the kids hosting the rally to skip Jimmy entirely. He was on the stage for an hour in front of his peers and teachers' parents being completely humiliated by the teacher. My husband, obviously upset with her decision, told her and the vice principal, Caleb McFerrin, how out of line they were for not allowing Jimmy to speak to his classmates just because his views didn't align with theirs and that Jimmy's freedom of speech was being taken from him. My husband didn't raise his voice, didn't use profanity, and did not make threatening remarks. Neither one of these individuals cared what they were doing to our child. They told my husband to leave or they would call someone to make him leave. He said he wouldn't as he was there to support his son and then walked to the opposite side of the gate, away from everyone else and all the students and faculty. The principal then proceeded to call HBPD, the local law enforcement, to further humiliate Jimmy. They showed up, spoke with my husband, and got the whole story about Jimmy's speech and what had happened. They then told him he was free to stay and watch the rest of the families in attendance. When the officers were leaving, they asked Ed to let Jimmy know that they said thank you for the things he wrote in the speech, and they thanked the officers for saying that. Later in the day, Mary Flock sent an email to all parents at SPS informing them of the incident but completely lying about what truly happened earlier in the day. I share this all with you, our community, asking for your support in this matter. Not only has this lady publicly humiliated my son, but she took his freedom of speech because he would not conform to what she wanted his speech to say. This woman has no business being in a head position at our school, or any school. If your child currently attends St. Bonaventure, planning on attending, or you are just a community member who cares about our city and schools, please read my son's speech and spread this to anyone that might be able to help get his story out. Thank you, signed the parents. That sounds all pretty innocuous, doesn't it? Not that big of a deal. Well, there was an update to this, because this all happened in May. If this had come and gone and with nothing else happening, this would not be a story we're talking about. But now, this Catholic school has decided that he cannot be allowed to attend the school next year. Neither he nor his sister. They are persona non grata at this Catholic school. The update from that notorious Twitter account says, quote, Jimmy, the middle schooler who wasn't allowed to give his speech at school because it was too patriotic, was just notified that he and his sisters will not be allowed back to the school next year. Before we get to the letter from St. Bonaventure Catholic Parish, bear in mind how much money it costs to go to a Catholic school. It isn't cheap. Once upon a time, Catholic schools were open to generally everybody. When most Catholics went to Mass and most Catholics tithed an appropriate amount, the schools who operated under parish funds could afford to have even like students from low-income backgrounds attend school there, especially since those schools were predominantly staffed by nuns and monks as the teachers. The overhead costs were kind of low, relatively speaking. The professionalization of Catholic schools has led to a serious decline in this, as well as all the McCarrick problems in the early 2000s and a whole host of other things, led to essentially making Catholic schools as expensive as any other private school, and that's a real shame. But here's what St. Bonaventure Catholic Parish said in their letter. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Hayward, this letter is to inform you of a decision regarding your family's association with St. Bonaventure School. After careful consideration and thorough review of recent events, and with the support of the diocese, the decision has been made to terminate your family's enrollment from St. Bonaventure School for next school year. The decision comes as a result of serious violations of the Christian Code of Conduct and the Parental Electronic Communication Policy, as outlined in our Parent-Student Handbook included below. These policies are in place to ensure a safe, respectful, and supportive environment for all members of our school community, and adherence to them is crucial for the welfare and integrity of our educational environment. End quote. What rule did they break? Well, this won't surprise you. They broke the rule of going public about this. They went public May 20th. That was when the original post from that notorious Twitter account went live. It's probably May 19th or 18th, but they went public before about the end of the school year, basically, and they decided that they couldn't have that. That was bad look for the school. And they got the diocese's support for this. So that's unfortunate. So I thought I would give them some publicity on this and hope that you will share this around or share their story, the links to that Twitter account. I don't care how you get the story out there, but share the story with them, with other people, especially if you know anybody in the diocese that where they're going to, anybody in that community. Let them know that a student who followed what the church has always said about filial love for your country and said some pretty not controversial stuff, got kicked out of school for high crime and misdemeanor of saying common sense stuff. What a time to be alive. Let me know what you think of the story in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.